Joining me now is Alona Shkrum, a Ukrainian member of parliament. She's asked us not to reveal her exact location in Ukraine. Thank you very much for your time, Alona. Obviously, without revealing where you are, what can you tell us about the conditions you're living through at the moment and the conditions of your fellow Ukrainians, particularly in the Donbas region, Mariupol and Odessa?
Well, hello, good evening. Right now, we are preparing very much to defend every city, Kiev, Odessa, which is in the south and which is the biggest port, because we feel that there would be a lot of possibilities to destabilize the region, especially the south as the eastern regions, for the 9th of May. The 9th of May is actually a big holiday in the mind of Putin. For the Soviet Union, it's called a kind of victory day, where we think and we estimate that Putin will move forward and will do even more missiles, even more tanks, even more provocations, even more destabilizations for the eastern part of the country and specifically for Odessa. So we are trying to protect as many cities as we can right now with the military, with the territorial defense, with every diplomatic with every diplomatic mission we can. Well, Kiev right now is relatively safe today, but you know probably that yesterday there were a number of missiles which were not stopped by our air defense. Almost every night there is missiles from Russia and there is a curfew and there are sirens. But usually our air defense is very good. But right now what Russians are doing, they're specifically targeting 3 or 4 or even 5 missiles at the same time at the same place. So we could not stop at least one of them. And yesterday the residential building was hit. One woman who is a journalist have died, unfortunately. She was just in her apartment in the 2nd floor, and the first 3 floors of the building were hit with a rocket just on the evening when the Kiev was preparing to have dinner. And this is what we are living through in this wartime. But the things are even worse for Odessa and the east of the country, so we are preparing for not so easy next week and next 10 days.
Yes, you mentioned that you are expecting an attack coming up on the May the 9th on top of what you're already seeing at the moment. But given that the Russian advancement is very much focused in the eastern part of the country, the reports here are stating that they're not having much luck there, that they're struggling to make the gains that they set out to do. Is that the right assessment from your end? What would you say about how Russia's strategy is going in the east?
I would say that they haven't changed the strategy. So the strategy was for a blitzkrieg, and you know that probably it completely failed. So Putin wanted to take Kiev and the capital in 2 or 3 days. Obviously, it did not happen. Obviously, they did not take any major cities. The only regional center they have right now, which is occupied, is Kherson, out of 20 plus regional cities we have in Ukraine. But the strategy right now, which hasn't changed for the past 55 days or 60 days, is the strategy of war of scorched earth. So just to create a humanitarian catastrophe, to kill as many civilians as possible, to provoke as much panic as possible, and to force women and children, to ask for some kind of negotiations, for stopping of this war, to giving the territories to Putin, to give everything he wants. But obviously it will not happen, and I think that this just makes us much more angry towards what he's doing, towards the whole Russian population who are taking responsibility right now of the actions of their president who has become a dictator. And well, basically, I think that the strategy has not changed, but the problem is that they do not have enough people and they do not have enough support and they do not have enough soldiers. We intercept a lot of communication from the part of the Russian soldiers that they do not want to go to war anymore. They do not understand why they are forced to kill civilians in Ukraine. We speak the same language. Ukrainians understand Russian and speak Russian. We also have a national language of Ukrainian, of course, but we understand each other. And they are saying that, well, why should we kill kids and women and elderly? What is this war for after the 60 days? So I do think that, of course, we have defended ourselves very well with the help of the West also. And we are prepared to defend us till the last Russian soldier will leave our land, because from what we've seen on the bombings of maternity wings, on the bombings of kindergartens, of massive graves near Kiev of children and women, this is completely terrifying. I do not want to see this ever again. I thought it was in the history books. So obviously we are going to fight and we are ready to fight. But the price of this fight and the price of this war has become very, very high for Ukrainians.
And aside from this obviously obscene threat of war that you're describing here, Ukraine is facing some huge problems in terms of agriculture and the economy. What's the status of the supply chains? What's it going to take for the Ukraine to rebuild itself again?
You are absolutely right, because what Russia has been doing, they have blocked the ports on the Black Sea, they have mined the Black Sea, so some of our major ports, and Odessa is the biggest one, are not able to provide export for grain, wheat, and agriculture products that we usually export to the whole world, to Africa the most part, to Europe, to other countries all over the world. And unfortunately, if we are not able to export the agriculture products that we are doing, because we are valuing for more than 40% of export of some agriculture products in the world, then it would mean hunger for African countries, and it would mean a humanitarian catastrophe in other parts of the world. So obviously we need to end this war and to win this war very fast. For the supply chains in Ukraine, Kiev was a problem for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and there were not enough products in some of the shops. Right now we have worked a lot with our Ministry of Economy and businesses in Ukraine to rebuild for Ukrainians and for supermarkets in Ukraine this channels of supply. And right now it's relatively stable for the areas which are not occupied. Of course, in Mariupol, for example, which is occupied and which is having war all over and fights all over on the streets, there are no food for people, no medicine, no water supply, nothing. And you know about that. You've probably seen the horrifying pictures.